Hey there, Synthrones. Today I want to talk about synth hating. As many of you who follow my channel and know me, you see that I have a lot of synthesizers. And if you follow my channel, you probably have realized I'm not very critical of any particular synthesizer. And I was thinking deeply today about that subject, about people who get upset about synthesizers and even synth companies. Maybe they had a bad experience, or they just simply don't gel well with a synth company or one of their products. And I started thinking about a time when I had a computer business back in the 90s. I had this old beat up computer that I put a sign on, and I was trying to give it away for free. It sat there for a very long time. Nobody would take this computer even though it was free. It wasn't until a very wealthy individual had come into my store, and as he was leaving after we conducted his business he needed to do, he looked over and he gave me a tip. He said, "I bet you've had that computer for free for quite a time. I can tell by the dust that's gathering." I told him nobody will take it. He said to me, "Put $100 on it. List it for $100. I replied, "It's not worth even 100 pennies, let alone $100. He told me to trust him. So I put $100 on it. He said, "Write it real big. He said, "Write the words sell, $100. So I wrote the sign, on sale, $100. And it wasn't until I did that I got rid of that computer. What happened is that very day, a regular customer had visited the store, and they saw that once free computer was now $100. He snickered, he laughed, he giggled. He said, "I'll give you 25 for it." I said, "Sold." You see, one man's junk is another man's treasure. So I have learned that even though I may not like a particular synthesizer or even a brand, it doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't had a different experience. It doesn't mean that somebody else is going to agree with me. And likewise, just because I love a synth or a brand, it doesn't mean everyone is going to agree with me on that. I like to focus on the positive of things. I believe that there is no such thing as a bad synthesizer. That everything can be used as an instrument. I even used a soda bottle once for percussion in one of my tracks. Nothing to do with the synthesizer, but I was able to do it. Because one man's junk is another man's treasure. So this channel, it's really never been about synthesizers. It just so happens that I use synthesizers mostly for my genre of music. But the channel's never been about that. It's been about my experience using my instruments here in my studio and my opinion of how I work with my gear. Now, some people, they could come into my studio and they could play all of the gear that you're seeing here in this video right now. And they may have a different experience than I have. They might like they might like some of my synthesizers more than others. They may hate a few simply because of the sound or the workflow, or they just don't gel with it. Or maybe they'll find something good about everything I have in here. I call that the hunt for the sweet spot. Every synthesizer I think I've ever experienced has a sweet spot somewhere in its sound. There has perhaps been maybe one, dare I say, two synthesizers that I absolutely didn't like the sound of, but I won't even tell you what those were because, one, I can't remember, and two, it's irrelevant. Because what I might find annoying and displeasing, others might find pleasing. And so I like to focus on the positive. What good thing have I come across today in synthesizers and music making? I think I have a really good balance of synthesizers right now. There are some synthesizers that I'm not particularly happy with at this time, and I might let them go. But it wouldn't be the synthesizer's fault. It won't even be mine. It just boils down to what works for the musician and how it works and how it flows. I have allowed great sounding synths to go simply because I absolutely hated the way they fit into my workflow. Sometimes I can be picky about that. So, before we crack down too hard on a synth or a company, we should spend some time with the gear and look what others have done with it. And if it's not for us, let it go. Not just out the door, but let it go out of our minds. Let us not pick at it and try to destroy it and tear it down. The world has enough negativity already. I'm Pure Ambient Drone. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about all of this. Hit that subscribe button. Tap that bell. And above all, keep calm and synth on.